and just kind of show you at the highest of levels. If you can, you don't have to read this slide in detail and memorize it in any way, because we are going to be going through this slide as we go through today's session, and I'll kind of break it down and go through each component with you. And for the most part, it works from the point of view of a spreadsheet. You know, there's a workbook, and there's many workbooks, so an entire XLS or XLSX document is a workbook, and we'll talk about some of the commands that work with workbooks themselves. Then we'll kind of jump into the sheet commands and talk about some of the things that work on those tabs within the workbook. Again, just getting the Excel terminology out there. So, you know, from a workbook point of view, we could look across all of the workbooks and try to find information. We could index those workbooks. We can import data, etc. From a sheets point of view, working with the tabs themselves, we could maybe merge a sheet together with another sheet. You can compare information, as we'll do. It's a very quick and easy kind of tool there. We can query data. We can split up data depending on by year. You know, imagine just for a second, we'll do it later, but if you had a big data file and you wanted to split it up by year into each tab, so that way you had a tab for 2010, 2011, 2012, the split command works perfectly for that. You can sort data, sample data. The sampling techniques follow, as far as I know, all of the internal audit sampling techniques that you would ever want to use, and probably all external audit ones as well. You know, stratified sampling, monetary unit sampling, random sampling. And while I'm not a pure expert on sampling, I'm slowly but surely becoming one as I use it more. And again, though, we will go through the sampling components as well. From a rows point of view, you can just take a look at utilizing, and I will admit I don't use the row analysis as much, just personally noting this, but it is something where you can tag various rows depending on certain things, and then you can, and these tags would be kind of like a tick mark that you would put on a row, and then you could start filtering that tag, copying tags, moving tags, etc. What I do spend a lot of time with are the column and cell type commands, and I do find I'm constantly arranging my columns and splitting columns depending on certain ways, and those are the two I mostly use there. In the cell category, though, this is where I definitely use it, and I'm going to show you how probably a lot of you have had trouble using VLOOKUP, and I want to show you how utilizing the cell functions will allow you to very quickly, you know, get back into using VLOOKUP and have it not bomb on you, which I find happens a lot. And there's a lot of other conversion there of data that I find is very difficult to do in Excel. I'm sure that there are functions that you could run to do everything that is in this, and I'm sure that's the code that in some ways that John's using to maybe get rid of blank spaces or get rid of punctuation or what have you. But to learn all that code and put it into a long kind of if statement is just not that fun. So, you know, utilizing this tool is just in my opinion, much better way to do that. So from an analysis point of view, we basically have a variety of audit tools now. So, you know, I find everything up to this point, maybe sampling is an audit tool, and maybe you could say that merging of data, which I don't know if you can see my mouse up here, the merging of data is kind of like joining data, comparing is like joining data, query is like extract. So there are some things that I guess are kind of audit tool related, but a lot of what I've said so far is just good old basic Excel, you know, improvements. Then, though, in the analysis section, you really get into all of the, I will say, kind of audit tool type commands. You can summarize things, and I want to show you in the summarize how powerful it is, in that it will calculate statistics for each summarized component, and that I love that, you know, that component. It is something where if I code that into another higher end product, you know, such as, you know, from a scripting point of view, to do this in, let's say, SQL, or to macro what is being done from a group summary point of view, could take a long time. Taking a look for top-bottom items, aging data, stratifying data, duplicate testing, gaps testing, We just did a session on it recently on Benford's Law, digital analysis, all done, and descriptive statistics. So, all of these things are kind of done in the analysis section, and that is really the audit capacity. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes and give you the overall, what are we going to do today, as quickly as I could, and then now continue on. From a getting data point of view, I mean, we actually even wrote a course and a whole book or ebook on this topic. And just looking at this slide quickly, I mean, it kind of walks through, how to request data and file formats and importing data that you may want to import. But I find that the Excel wizard that we'll kind of take a look at in a second here is quite good. And I know Active Data has some import functions, and we may want to take a look at them, but I just find that the good old Excel wizard of opening up a text file and be it a delimited text file or comma separated works quite well, and I utilize that all the time. So I will try to show that quickly as we go through the workbook commands. But just taking a look at the workbook commands, this is part of the ribbon. I am using Excel 2010. So I will note that for those that might be on other versions of Excel. Probably one question I have for John later is, will it still work on Excel 2003 if people are back there? And I do find people still, some companies I've noticed are not on Excel 2007 or 2010, which introduced this ribbon. But again, I am using Excel 2010. So let me kind of drag over my little Excel screen for everybody to take a look at. Let me just try to open that up so everyone can see it. And what we have here is a accounts payable file. Again, a bit of a file that you could utilize. But what I wanted to try to do is open up a data file, and hopefully this won't take me too long to find it. Bear with me one second here. And what I'm going to do is look for all of my text files. And I had built a little general ledger.txt file, and just to kind of show you, this is basic Excel, has nothing to do with Active Data, but we did kind of note that we were going to talk about importing data. I find that there are two ways of importing data. There's delimited text, which means that there's a tab in between the journal entry number, the account number, the post date, etc. There's fixed width, which we don't have here. Where the journal entry number is 15 characters long, and you would put kind of a delimiter there, and then the account number is 20 characters long, and you put a delimiter there, etc., etc. But we'll just use the delimited function here. It is delimited by tab. I guess the text qualifier is that commas or quotation marks. I can get a little fancy here and say, well, this is really a date, and it is month, date, year, and I can go to this one, etc. This one is actually a number, so let me just keep that as general and import it. And that imports our general ledger table into Active Data. So again, or Excel, and then we can utilize this for Active Data purposes. But did want to just quickly show that. That's how you open up a file and utilize the wizard to opening up a file for those that didn't know.